They are coming. 6 giant hungry shadows, sentencing the end of everything. The icy air burned Anya's lungs, but it was the sound, the guttural roar that made the ground tremble beneath her aged feet. Blind to the eye, she saw with her soul the dark mass of fur and fury advancing, imposing, upon the last sacred reindeer calves. Each step of those ice predators was a drumbeat heralding the imminent death of her tribe. Anya knew she had to act, but how could a woman who had never seen the sun guide the innocent through the darkness of a hellish blizzard? And what would she do when the alpha bear, a monster weighing over 3,000 pounds, raised its paw for the final blow? Anya did not allow doubt to take root. The ancestral voice within her clamored for action. Her wrinkled fingers touched the icy ground, feeling the urgent vibrations. There was no time for hesitation. The lives of her people and the spirit of the tribe depended on those small, soft-furred creatures. She turned, her face weathered but radiating a determination that calmed hearts. Prepare the reindeer. We are going to the frozen mountain refuge. Now. Her voice, hoarse from the cold, carried the authority of one who had always known the way. The members of the Sarik tribe, their faces pale, looked at her with reverence and dread. How would a blind woman guide them through the blizzard that was already sweeping the village, turning the world into a white veil? Lyra, a young mother with her infant, clutched her baby. Her tear-filled eyes met Anya's, which seemed to see everything. Anya extended her hand, and Lyra, trembling, took it. The elder's touch was warm, a balm of courage. "Trust the ice, Lyra," Anya murmured, soft as snow. "It speaks to us. The wind will guide us." The blizzard whipped their faces, turning the air into ice needles. Visibility dropped to almost zero, the world a white, indistinct blur. It was the darkness Anya knew best, where her other senses flourished. She smelled the sharp scent of the frozen air, the muffled sound of the flakes, and the faint pulsation of the bears, still distant but approaching. The reindeer calves, small and fragile, trembled with cold and fear. Their mothers protected them with their robust bodies. Anya moved among them, her experienced fingers touching their soft fur, feeling each one's temperature, the strength of their hooves. She knew the journey would be arduous, perhaps the most dangerous. The frozen mountain refuge was a hidden cave, an ancestral secret, accessible by a treacherous trail covered in snow and ice. But it was their only hope. With a nod, Anya signaled the start of the march. She held the lead of one of the older reindeer, allowing the creature to guide her with slow, steady steps. Lyra, with the infant on her back, followed closely, her eyes fixed on the elder's silhouette that seemed to float through the storm, an invisible guide. The wind howled, trying to tear off their hoods, but Anya maintained her posture, her aged but resilient body an anchor of hope. Every vibration of the ice was a map, every breath of the wind a compass. The bear's roar, now sharper, cut through the icy air, a brutal reminder of the danger. Lyra's heart pounded erratically, but she looked at Anya, who showed no fear. The elder took a deep breath, the icy air filling her lungs with the promise of life. She was not just guiding reindeer, she carried the future of her tribe, the memory of her ancestors, and the faith of her people. The journey had only just begun, and the darkness of the blizzard was a test, but Anya knew that true vision resided in what one felt, not in what one saw. The journey through the white darkness of the blizzard was a silent battle. Every step was a victory. The wind, once a distant howl, was now a furious orchestra, whipping snowflakes that turned into sharp needles against exposed skin. Lyra, with the infant nestled in her fur hood, felt her body tremble, not just from the cold, but from the fear nesting in her chest. Her eyes, once accustomed to the clear vastness of the tundra, now saw only an indistinct blur, and with each passing moment, Anya's silhouette ahead seemed more fragile, more distant. How did she do it? Anya, however, saw no fragility in herself. Her inner vision was sharper than any eye. The ice beneath her boots spoke, whispering of hidden cracks and slippery surfaces. The wind, for her, was not an enemy, but a messenger, bringing the sense of fresh snow, frozen earth, and more urgently, the heavy, wild odor of predators. The roars, once mere echoes, now vibrated in her chest, a macabre rhythm that quickened everyone's pulse. She felt the tribe's anxiety, the reindeer's trembling, and knew she had to be the rock amidst the storm. "Stay together," her voice resonated, surprisingly firm, despite the wind. "The path is treacherous, but we are not alone." Lyra clutched her baby, seeking comfort in the elder's words. She looked at the other tribe members, their faces grey with exhaustion and cold, but their eyes fixed on Anya, a flickering flame of hope. The reindeer calves with their delicate hooves struggled to keep up, slipping on the ice, but their mothers gently nudged them, protecting them from the biting wind. Anya guided them through a narrow passage between two ice-covered rock formations, a shortcut that only she, with her intimate knowledge of the land, could find in the blizzard's blindness. Her fingers groped the cold rock, feeling the textures, the curves, as if she were reading a map in Braille. She knew every inch was crucial. The frozen mountain refuge was not just a name, it was a promise, a sanctuary that guarded life. Suddenly, a different sound cut through the wind's howl, a sharp, desperate cry. Lyra felt her heart freeze. One of the reindeer calves, the youngest, had slipped into an ice crevice, its leg trapped, its small body trembling. Its mother, desperate, tried to pull it free, but the ice was relentless. The bear's roars now seemed to come from all directions, closer, more menacing. Anya stopped, her aged body stiffening. She felt the vibration of the ice beneath her feet, not just the trembling of the reindeer, but something heavier, more powerful. "They are here," she whispered, her voice almost inaudible, but laden with an urgency that made Lyra's blood run cold. The elder turned, her sightless eyes fixed on a spot in the white darkness. Lyra followed her gaze, but saw only snow. Then a colossal shadow emerged from the storm, a mountain of white fur and fury, its yellow eyes gleaming with an ancestral hunger. It was the alpha bear, the titan weighing over 3,000 pounds, and it was just a few meters from the trapped calf. The air grew dense, heavy with the promise of an inevitable confrontation. Anya, the blind elder, was now face to face with the monster, and the tribe's fate hung by a thread. Anya felt the damp heat of the alpha bear's breath on her wrinkled face, a smell of fish and savagery that burned her nostrils. The roar it let out was a deep vibration that traveled through the ice, rose through her legs, and resonated in her chest, a promise of destruction. Lyra, paralyzed by terror, watched the monster, her eyes wide. The bear, its yellow eyes fixed on the reindeer calf trapped in the crevice, took a slow step, its sharp claws scraping the ice, each movement an imminent threat. Anya, however, did not retreat. Her blindness was her strength, her darkness, her clarity. She did not see the fury, but felt the intent. Her mind, a living archive of centuries of Saric wisdom, quickly searched through memories. How to face the insurmountable by force. With cunning, with deep knowledge of the land. She remembered an ancestral story about disorienting a larger predator, using the environment as an ally. Her wrinkled, agile fingers moved quickly to the small leather pouch fastened to her waist. From it, she took out a handful of smooth, heavy stones. With an almost imperceptible movement, she threw one of the stones forcefully against a hollow ice formation, slightly to the bear's right. The sound, amplified by the cavity and the oppressive silence of the blizzard, echoed like a dry, loud crack, sharp and unexpected. The alpha bear, which was about to charge the calf, stopped. Its massive head snapped sharply in the direction of the sound, its small yellow eyes searching for the origin. It growled, confusion evident in its posture. Polar bears relied on their keen senses, but in a blizzard, with strange sounds echoing, their perception could be deceived. Anya felt the animal's hesitation, a window of opportunity. She threw another stone, this time to the left, hitting a thinner layer of ice, producing a different, sharper, and more vibrant sound. The bear growled again, turning towards the new sound, its colossal body circling slowly, disoriented. The blizzard, which had previously been an enemy, now worked in her favor, distorting sounds, echoing them in unpredictable ways. The other bears, which were approaching, also slowed their pace, confused by the erratic sounds that seemed to come from all sides. Lyra, watching the scene with her mouth agape, saw Anya's strategy unfold. The elder was not fighting with claws or teeth, but with her mind, with wisdom that transcended sight. The alpha bear, a predator accustomed to dominating by brute force, was being outsmarted by a series of echoes and vibrations it could not decipher. It snorted, frustrated, its movements becoming more erratic. Anya knew she didn't have much time. The trick would only work for a few moments. With a final effort, she threw a larger stone, with all the strength of her aged arms, against a more distant ice wall, creating a boom that reverberated through the frozen landscape. The alpha bear, completely disoriented and enraged, let out a roar of fury, and instead of attacking the calf, turned sharply and ran in the opposite direction, towards where the last, louder sound had echoed, quickly disappearing into the white darkness of the blizzard. The other bears, following their leader, also dispersed. A collective sigh of profound relief escaped the tribe's lips. Lyra felt tears freeze on her cheeks. Anya, exhausted but with a faint smile on her lips, turned to the trapped reindeer calf. The opening had been created. The immediate danger, by a miracle of cunning, had been averted. The true journey, however, was still far from over, but hope, which had seemed almost frozen, now pulsed with renewed strength in everyone's hearts. The relief, though profound, lasted only an instant. The reindeer calf was still trapped, its faint cry echoing in the wind. Anya, despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders, felt the urgency of the situation. She approached the crevice with careful steps, her aged feet feeling the ice, sensing every irregularity. Lyra, her heart still pounding in her chest, followed closely, the baby now calmer, but fear still present in her eyes. "We need to get it out of there," Anya said, her voice softer now, but laden with determination. "Carefully. The ice is treacherous here. Lyra, you and Kyle come." Kyle, one of the tribe's young hunters who had remained steadfast beside Anya during the confrontation, nodded, his eyes fixed on the elder. He took out a thick rope made of reindeer hide, always carried for emergencies. Anya knelt at the edge of the crevice, her wrinkled fingers exploring the ice, feeling the depth and width of the crack. The calf, with its large dark eyes, looked at her, trembling. Its mother, with a low lament, tried to approach, but Anya stopped her with a gentle gesture. "Stay back a little, my dear. It needs space." "It's deep, Anya," Kyle murmured, assessing the situation, "and slippery." "I know," she replied, without diverting her attention from the ice. "But it's not impossible. Kyle, tie the rope firmly around the trunk of that frozen tree there." She indicated with her head towards a small, wind-twisted birch that Lyra could barely distinguish in the blizzard. "Lyra, you will hold the other end. I will guide your hands." Lyra, though still feeling the cold and exhaustion, felt a new wave of strength upon hearing Anya's clear instructions. Kyle tied the rope with dexterity, testing the knot's firmness. Anya then took the loose end of the rope, and with a delicate touch placed it in Lyra's hands. "Feel the tension. Pull slowly when I say. The calf is fragile." With the rope secure, Anya, still kneeling, extended one hand to the calf. Her experienced fingers touched the soft fur, feeling the trapped leg. The ice had closed around it, but not crushed it. It was a tight, painful fit. She took a deep breath, concentrating. Kyle, you will lean in and very carefully try to loosen the ice around its leg. Use the tip of your staff, but without force, just to create a small vibration. Kyle obeyed, his movements slow and precise. He used the bone-tipped end of his wooden staff to scrape and prod the ice around the calf's leg. The sound was muffled, but Anya felt the vibrations through the ice. The calf whimpered, but did not struggle, as if it understood they were trying to help it. Now, Lyra, Anya commanded, her voice firm. Pull the rope, slowly, just enough to give it a little slack. Lyra pulled, feeling the rope stretch in her gloved hands. Kyle continued to work on the ice, and with each small movement a chip broke free. The process was slow, agonizing, with the wind howling and the threat of the bears still fresh in their memory. Finally, with a small crack, the calf's leg came free from the crevice. Lyra pulled the rope more firmly, and Kyle helped lift the small body. The calf, exhausted and frightened, was gently placed on the ground. Its mother rushed to it, licking it affectionately, and the calf, though limping, managed to stand and nestle under its mother's warm body. A sigh of relief, this time more lasting, swept through the tribe. Anya, with a tired smile, stood up. She felt the warmth of the calf's body, the life that had been saved. "We haven't reached the refuge yet," she said, her voice a gentle reminder. "But every life we save is a step towards our own survival. The path is long, but hope guides us." The tribe, with lighter hearts and renewed faith, prepared to continue, following the blind elder who, with her inner vision, illuminated the darkest path. The newfound hope gave the Sarik new breath, but the path ahead was relentless. The blizzard offered no respite. The wind, a tireless sculptor, had transformed the landscape into treacherous dunes and slippery ice ramps. Every step was an act of faith, every breath an effort against the air that tore at their throats. Anya, with her staff firmly planted, led the way. Her body stooped, her determination unwavering. Lyra, with the young reindeer calf nestled in her lap, followed closely, her eyes fixed on the elder's silhouette, who seemed to defy the storm. The small rescued calf, though limping, was a living symbol of victory over despair. Anya felt the subtle change in the terrain's incline, the texture of the ice beneath her boots, which became more irregular and treacherous. The sound of the wind changed, a sharp whistle indicating the proximity of a rocky elevation. She knew they were approaching the dragon's spine, a narrow ridge that led to the refuge, always dangerous, but now, under the blizzard's fury, a deadly trap. Her fingers groped the air, seeking the wind's direction, mapping the currents that crashed against the invisible rocks. "Be careful here," Anya warned, her voice almost swallowed by the incessant wind's howl. "The ice is thin in places and the ascent steep. Hold firm, my children, one step at a time with an attentive soul." The tribe obeyed, hearts heavy. Lyra felt fear return, an icy shiver that didn't come from the cold. She looked at Kale, who carried one of the heavier calves, his face pale with exhaustion, but his eyes fixed on Anya. The trust in her was palpable, an anchor of hope amidst the storm's white chaos. Anya stopped, her staff touching the ice in front of her. She leaned in, her wrinkled hand touching the surface. She felt a different vibration, a hollow echo that revealed a thinner layer of ice, hiding a dangerous depression. "Not this way," she murmured, diverting their path slightly to the right, to an area where the ice seemed more solid and safe. She couldn't see the trap, but her keen senses alerted her, saving them from a possible disaster. The ascent of the dragon's spine was a slow, exhausting torment. The wind tried to knock them down. The slippery ice threatened every step. The reindeer, with delicate hooves, struggled bravely, and the tribe members helped them, pushing and pulling carefully. Anya, however, seemed to find an invisible path, her feet following a rhythm only she knew. She felt the body's incline, the air's pressure against her face, and knew where to step, where to lean, where the earth would offer secure support. Lyra, exhausted, felt the calf in her lap tremble with cold and fatigue and clutched it tighter. "We're almost there." "Little one," she whispered more to herself than to it. With every meter gained, hope mingled with overwhelming exhaustion. The elder, ahead, was an unwavering beacon in the white darkness. Her strength came not from muscles, but from wisdom that merged with the earth itself. She was the personification of resilience, proof that even in the deepest darkness, the light of hope would never freeze for the Sarik people. Suddenly, a deep, guttural roar, not from a bear, but from the frozen earth itself, reverberated beneath their feet. The sound was dry, a colossal crack that rose from the depths, making the ice tremble violently. Lyra let out a cry, clutching the calf, while Kale, stumbling, tried to keep the reindeer calm. The narrow ridge they were ascending, the dragon's spine, groaned and shuddered. Anya, with her staff plunged into the ice, felt the most intense and disturbing vibration of her life. It wasn't the ice cracking under weight, but a deeper rupture, a telluric movement that changed the very face of the mountain. A tearing sound, like 1,000 cloths being ripped apart, echoed, and ahead, where the path should have continued, a gigantic crevice opened, swallowing part of the ridge and revealing a dark, unfathomable abyss. The refuge was now separated from them by a newly formed precipice. Terror froze everyone's blood. The path was blocked. Anya, however, did not hesitate. She felt the instability of the new landscape, the cold air rising from the crevice, and above all, the hopelessness that was beginning to settle upon the tribe. "Don't look down," she cried, her voice cutting through the wind's howl with renewed authority. "The earth moves, but life finds a way. Kyle, Lyra, come. We need a new map." She turned sharply to the left, towards an almost vertical ice wall that seemed impassable, but which, to her senses, offered a faint promise of passage. Anya turned to the ice wall, which to Lyra's and Kale's eyes was an impassable monolith, a cold and imposing barrier that seemed to mock their hope. But Anya did not see with her eyes. She saw with her soul, with the memory of the earth etched into every fiber of her being. Her wrinkled fingers, thin as dry branches, reached out to the ice, feeling the rough and irregular surface. Lyra watched, her heart heavy, the infant in her lap feeling her body's tremor. Kale, with the heavier reindeer calf still in his arms, approached, his eyes questioning, but his mouth remaining closed, trusting the elder. Anya slid her hand along the wall, feeling every fissure, every protrusion, every depression. The intense cold did not bother her. It was just another part of Yakutia's language, a message she deciphered with precision. She felt a subtle, almost imperceptible current of air emanating from a small opening, hidden by a thin layer of accumulated ice and snow. It was not a visible crevice, but a promise whispered by the wind. "Here," she said, her voice low, but laden with a certainty that silenced the tribe's fears. "There is a passage, narrow, but it exists." Kyle leaned in, trying to discern what Anya felt. He saw only solid ice, white and impenetrable. "Elder, I see nothing," he murmured, doubt in his voice, a faint thread, but present. Lyra also strained her eyes, but the blizzard and the white darkness of the ice wall prevented any clear vision. Anya smiled, a small, wise smile that warmed the icy air. "Sight, my young one, can deceive. Touch, vibration, the whisper of the wind. They reveal more than eyes will ever see." She pointed with her staff to a spot on the wall where the air current was strongest. "Kyle, use your staff. Carefully, break the thin ice here. Lyra, prepare the rope." Kyle, with renewed determination, obeyed. He used the bone-tipped end of his staff, scraping and prodding the ice at the spot Anya indicated. The sound was muffled, but soon a small crack formed. With a few more precise blows, a piece of ice broke free, revealing a dark opening, barely large enough for a person to pass through. It was a natural tunnel, sculpted by wind and time, a secret vein in the frozen rock. The tribe, which had been watching in apprehensive silence, let out a collective gasp of surprise and admiration. Faith in Anya, which had wavered for an instant, now solidified again. "It's a narrow and dark path," Anya warned, her voice echoing slightly in the opening. "But it will lead us beyond the dragon's spine, to a safer point before the refuge. We need to go one at a time. Kyle, you go first. Lyra, you come after with the baby and the injured calf. The others will follow, helping the reindeer." Organization was crucial, and Anya, even blind, orchestrated every movement with a master's precision. Kyle squeezed through the opening, his strong body struggling against the tight ice. He disappeared into the darkness, and the tribe heard the sound of his cautious footsteps echoing within. Lyra, clutching the baby and the reindeer calf against herself, felt a chill. But Anya's determination was contagious. She handed the injured reindeer calf to its mother, who gently nudged it into the tunnel, while Lyra, with the baby, prepared to follow Kale. Anya, with her staff, felt the entrance, ensuring the ice would not give way. The passage was a labyrinth of ice, but for Anya it was a familiar map, a path her ancestors had whispered through the ages. With every step, hope was renewed, a flame that refused to freeze. Advancing through the ice tunnel was a test of endurance. The air inside was dense, laden with the damp scent of ancient ice. Lyra, with the baby nestled against her chest, had to crawl in some sections, the ice scraping against her thick clothes. The injured reindeer calf, though limping, was guided by its mother and the other tribe members, who pushed and pulled it with patience and care. Anya, at the rear, felt the passage narrow and widen, the ice ceiling sometimes high, sometimes so low that it required them to bend almost to the ground. She heard the sounds of the tribe, the murmurs of encouragement, the sighs of effort, and felt the vibration of the ice beneath her feet, confirming they were on the right path. Suddenly, the tunnel began to incline upwards, and a faint, bluish light began to appear ahead. It was the exit, a promise of fresh air and a new horizon. Kyle emerged first, his face marked by exhaustion, but his eyes shining with relief. He extended his hand to Lyra, helping her out of the narrow passage. The baby coughed a little in the icy air, but was safe. One by one, the tribe members and the reindeer emerged, their bodies tired, but their spirits renewed by the small victory. They were in a sheltered clearing, surrounded by high rocks that blocked the biting wind. The frozen mountain refuge was visible in the distance, a dark spot on the white landscape, but now accessible. Anya, the last to emerge, felt the softer wind, the scent of fresh snow, and knew they had overcome yet another obstacle. The journey had not ended, but faith and resilience had opened a new path, proving that true vision resides in the strength of the human spirit. However, the brief relief of the clearing could not mask the truth. The frozen mountain refuge, though now visible as a dark, promising smudge on the white horizon, was still a considerable distance away. Anya felt the profound weariness that weighed upon each tribe member, an exhaustion that seeped into their bones, colder than the wind itself. "A brief rest, my children," Anya said, her voice a thread of melody the wind tried to steal. She turned her wrinkled face towards the tribe, as if she could see the fatigue in each of them. "The refuge awaits us, but the path ahead is treacherous. The wind here is a thief of warmth, and the bears, they sense our presence, even if we don't see them. We need to move with purpose, with an attentive soul." Lyra, with the baby and the reindeer calf nestled in her arms, felt a chill that didn't come from the cold. The relief of exiting the tunnel had been ephemeral. The threat of the bears, which seemed to have been momentarily diverted, now returned to hover like an icy shadow over their hearts. She looked at Kale, who was helping the injured calf's mother to stand, his movements slow with fatigue. The young hunter nodded to Anya, his eyes serious and fixed on the elder, a mixture of respect and apprehension. Anya felt the air with her thin hands, sensing the wind's direction, the smell of ice and snow mixed with a subtle odor, almost imperceptible to others, but unmistakable to her, the distant, heavy scent of predator. Her keen senses picked up the vibration in the air, the change in pressure, signs that announced the proximity of danger. "They are approaching," Anya whispered, her voice low but laden with an urgency that made Lyra's blood run cold. Kyle, who was closer, heard, and his eyes widened. The elder didn't need sight to know. Her other senses were sharper than any eye, an unwavering compass in the darkness. The tribe, though exhausted, gathered its last strength. Faith in Anya was the only thing that propelled them, a stubborn flame that refused to extinguish. They moved out of the sheltered clearing, re-entering the blizzard's fury, which seemed to have lessened slightly but was still relentless, whipping their faces with ice crystals. The terrain ahead was a vast ice plain, dotted with snow-covered rocks that looked like ghosts in the gloom. Every step was a monumental effort, muscles aching, breath short and ragged. The wind cut at their faces, turning exposed skin to stone, and with each gust, it seemed to try to tear hope itself from their chests. The reindeer, with their thin hooves, slipped on the smooth ice, and the tribe members helped them with patience and care, pushing and pulling them, each gesture an act of altruism and connection. Anya, with her staff firmly planted, felt the ice beneath her feet, discerning the small elevations, the depressions hidden by the treacherous snow. Her keen ears picked up the distant sound of the wind, which carried an echo, a grave murmur that was not of the storm. It was a growl, closer now, that made Lyra's heart leap in her chest and the baby in her arms shrink back. Lyra clutched the baby and the reindeer calf even tighter. Fear, which had been momentarily pushed away by the small victory in the tunnel, returned with full force, an icy knot in her stomach. She looked at Anya, whose wrinkled face was serious, but showed no panic. The elder's calm was a balm, a silent promise that together they would find a way no matter how dark it seemed. "Don't run," Anya instructed, her voice low but firm, echoing the wisdom of generations. "Panic will make us fall. Maintain your pace. The refuge is just ahead. I feel the warmth of the rocks, the protection it offers, like an embrace from Mother Earth." The tribe, with their hearts in their throats, obeyed. Each of them, one by one, felt the invisible presence of the predators approaching, the tension palpable in the air. The ice plain, once a path to salvation, now seemed a stage for an inevitable confrontation. Anya quickened her pace, a rhythm that for her age and blindness was surprising, almost supernatural. She knew the distance between them and the bears was shrinking with each minute, and that the refuge was their only hope, their only sanctuary. They needed to reach it before the darkness of night and the bears' fury swallowed them whole. Time was an enemy as relentless as the cold. The wind, once a distant howl, now whispered threats. Anya felt the air vibrate, dense with the unmistakable scent of polar bears, approaching fast. They were no longer echoes, but the heavy breathing and calculated steps of the white giants, making the ice tremble. Kale, exhausted, clutched the reindeer calf, his eyes fixed on Anya's unwavering silhouette, absorbing the storm's fury. Lyra, with the baby and the injured calf nestled close, felt despair gnaw at hope. The little one trembled, the baby whimpered, cold and fear seeping in. She looked at the elder, seeking in her wrinkled face a promise of salvation. Anya, without seeing, felt Lyra's gaze, and an encouraging smile appeared, a balm to the chaos. Suddenly the terrain changed. The smooth ice gave way to a vast expanse of soft, deep snow. a white swamp swallowing the legs of reindeer and tribe alike. Their progress became slow. The reindeer, exhausted, sank. A calf already limping fell, whimpering faintly. Its mother tried to pull it, but was on the verge of collapse. "We cannot stop!" Anya cried, her voice cutting through the wind's howl with authority. She felt the snow's texture, its treacherous depth, and the despair. "Kyle! Lyra! Come! Human chain! Everyone, help push the reindeer! One by one, use your staffs! The snow is deep but not endless, every step closer to warmth, to safety." Kyle, with the injured calf, handed it to Lyra, who clutched it. He joined the others, forming a line of bodies bent against the wind, pushing the reindeer with force. The Sarik, united in purpose, transformed exhaustion into collective strength, a testament to unwavering resilience. Anya, at the front, felt the snow with her staff, searching for the firmest spots. Her ears picked up the tribe's effort. The muffled cry of the calf and the bear's growls, now just a few meters away. The heavy, cold breath of the predators was palpable, a dark omen chilling their blood. Lyra's heart beat like a war drum. She felt the bear's presence not with sight, but with a primal instinct for survival. The refuge, a dark smudge in the distance, seemed like a dream. Anya continued to advance, an unwavering beacon of hope, the personification of resilience moving mountains of ice and snow. With a final monumental effort, the tribe crossed the snow swamp. The reindeer, exhausted, were on firmer ground. The refuge was now reachable, but the bear's growls were deafening, and the blizzard, in a last gasp of fury, intensified, trying to blind and knock them down. Anya stopped abruptly, raising her staff. "They are here," she whispered, her voice laden with gravity. "I feel the warmth of their bodies, the trembling of the earth. They are very close, but the refuge, it is also here. We can almost touch safety. We need one last effort, my children, the last spark to reach protection." Anya raised her staff, not as a weapon, but as an extension of her unwavering will. The air around them vibrated with a different energy, dense and heavy, an icy premonition that didn't need eyes to be perceived. The scent of the bears, once distant, now invaded their nostrils, a mixture of wet fur, earth, and a primal ferocity that chilled the soul. Lyra felt her heart quicken, an erratic drum in her chest. The baby in her arms pressed against her, a small, muffled whimper escaping its lips. She looked at Kale, whose eyes were wide with fear, but who stood firm, a human shield for the reindeer huddled behind him. "The refuge is just a few steps away," Anya cried, her voice surprisingly strong against the wind's howl. "I feel the rocks, the shelter that awaits us, but they also feel it. There's no time to hesitate. Run, my children. Run with the strength of hope, with the promise of a new dawn." The tribe, with its last reserves of energy, launched into a desperate run. Their feet sank in the snow, but urgency was an invisible whip that propelled them. The reindeer, sensing the imminent danger, trotted with surprising speed, driven by survival instinct and the gentle hand of the Sarik. Lyra, with the baby and the injured calf, felt every fiber of her body scream with exhaustion, but the image of the refuge, now a more defined silhouette against the white, was a beacon. Suddenly, the earth trembled beneath Anya's feet. It wasn't the telluric movement from before, but the heavy impact of something gigantic. A guttural growl, so deep it seemed to come from the earth's bowels, echoed a few meters away. Anya turned her face in the direction of the sound, her keen senses mapping the approach. She felt the air violently displace, the heavy warmth of an enormous body passing by her. One of the reindeer calves, the same one Lyra had carried, and which was now trying to keep up with its mother, slipped on a treacherous ice patch, falling sideways. Its injured leg gave way, and it let out a faint, helpless lament. The mother reindeer, in an act of desperation and love, stopped, trying to push the calf to its feet, but panic prevented her from acting effectively. It was at that instant that the colossal white shadow emerged from the blizzard. The alpha bear, a titan of white fur and small, cruel eyes, materialized like an ice ghost, its massive body casting an oppressive darkness. It moved with surprising agility for its size, not towards the main tribe, but directly towards the fallen calf and its mother. Its growl was thunder, and its claws, sharp as ice blades, were extended. Terror paralyzed the tribe. Kyle let out a cry of warning, but it was too late. Lyra felt her blood run cold, her eyes fixed on the unfolding scene, unable to move. The reindeer calf, cornered, closed its eyes, awaiting the end. But Anya did not hesitate. With a speed that belied her age, she threw herself forward, positioning herself between the alpha bear and the calf. Her staff plunged into the ice, and she raised her wrinkled face, not to see, but to feel the colossal presence of the predator. The bear stopped, a few steps from her, its warm, heavy breath hitting the elder's face. It tilted its head, confused by the small figure that dared to challenge it. Anya was face to face with the monster, a titan of over 3,000 pounds of pure ferocity. Her lips moved and she began to whisper, not words of fear, but an ancient melody, a soft chant that seemed to blend with the wind's howl, a song of connection with the earth. An ancestral trick her forebears had used to confuse and divert the great spirits of the snow. Her gestures were slow and deliberate, her hands extending slightly, as if she were weaving an invisible web in the icy air. The alpha bear, intrigued, tilted its head, its eyes fixed on the blind elder who seemed to show no fear. The blizzard, in a moment of almost supernatural silence, seemed to await the outcome. Anya continued to sing, her aged but strong voice weaving a sonic tapestry that seemed to defy the blizzard's fury. They were not words, but guttural syllables, a primal lament that spoke directly to instinct. Her fingers, previously extended, now moved in slow, rhythmic circles as if she were shaping the icy air itself. With her staff, she touched the ice beneath her feet, not with force, but with a lightness that sent subtle vibrations through the frozen crust, a silent message to the earth and to the creature confronting her. The alpha bear, with its small, intelligent eyes, watched her with a curiosity unusual for its fierce nature. It growled again, a deep sound that made the ice tremble, but there was a note of uncertainty in its roar. It took a step back, then another, its movements heavy and hesitant. Anya's melody, combined with the staff's vibrations and the strange scent she seemed to emit, a mixture of dried herbs and ancestral smoke she kept in a small pouch beneath her garments, was disorienting the predator. Its keen senses, accustomed to hunting and pursuit, were being bombarded by contradictory stimuli. What was this small figure that did not flee, that did not seem like prey, but sang and touched the earth with such reverence? Lyra, with the baby and the injured calf in her arms, watched, paralyzed. Fear still gripped her, but a new emotion, an almost mystical fascination, began to emerge. Kyle, mouth agape, witnessed the scene. Unable to believe what his eyes saw, the elder, blind and frail, was facing a monster of nature with nothing but her voice and her wisdom. The reindeer, which had previously been in a panic, now calmed, their eyes fixed on Anya as if they too were under the spell of the melody. Anya felt the bear's hesitation, the change in its breathing, the slight retreat of its body. It was the moment. With a swift and precise movement, she struck her staff against the ice with a hollow, resonant sound, directing it towards a nearby crevice where the wind howled more fiercely. The sound, amplified by the ice and wind, seemed to come from a different direction, a phantom echo that mingled with Anya's song. The alpha bear, confused, sharply turned its head to the side, its eyes following the illusory sound. It sniffed the air, but the scent of prey had vanished, replaced by the strange, disorienting aroma of Anya's herbs and the wind's echo. In a blink of an eye, the white titan, still intrigued and disoriented, turned its back on the fallen reindeer calf and began to move in the direction of the phantom sound, entering the blizzard with heavy steps. The vital opening had been created. "Now!" Anya cried, her voice cutting through the air like a whip. "To the refuge! Quickly, my children!" The tribe, awakened from its stupor, reacted with an explosion of energy. Kyle ran to the reindeer calf, carefully lifting it. The mother reindeer, with a look of gratitude towards Anya, nudged the calf forward, and together they launched into the final sprint. Lyra, with the baby safe, felt her legs gain new strength, the refuge now just a few meters away. The dark rocks, which had previously seemed like a mirage, now materialized as a protective embrace. Hope, which seemed to have frozen, rekindled in every heart, propelling them towards safety. The climax had passed, and life, once again, had found a way in the freezing depths of Yakutia. The final sprint was an explosion of energy and hope. Every step, though painful, was an advance towards the promise of safety. Lyra, with the baby nestled and the injured reindeer calf in one hand, felt the icy air burn her lungs, but the sight of the dark rocks of the frozen mountain refuge, now so close, was a balm for her exhausted soul. She saw Kyle ahead, guiding the mother reindeer and the other calves, his movements swift and determined. The tribe, united, crossed the last meters of deep snow, their cries of effort mingling with the wind's howl. Finally, they reached the entrance of the refuge, a narrow, dark crevice in the rocks, almost invisible in the blizzard. Kyle was the first to enter, clearing the way for the reindeer. Lyra followed him, feeling the faint warmth emanating from the rocks, a warmth that seemed to embrace her frozen body. The baby let out a sigh of relief, and the reindeer calf, with a faint whimper, nestled closer. One by one, the sarik and the reindeer entered the shelter, their bodies trembling with cold and exhaustion, but their hearts filled with profound gratitude. Anya, the last to enter, felt the entrance with her staff, sensing the solidity of the rocks, the impenetrable barrier that now separated them from the blizzard's fury and the bear's threat. She sighed, a soft sound that was lost in the silence forming within the refuge. The smell of ice and damp rock was now mixed with the scent of dry moss and earth, an aroma of home and protection. Inside, the air was calmer, the wind just a distant whisper. The bluish light of the ice penetrated through the crevices, illuminating the cave with an ethereal glow. Lyra sat on the stone floor, leaning against a rock, the baby and the reindeer calf falling asleep in her arms. She felt tears stream down her face, not from sadness, but from overwhelming relief. Kyle approached Anya, his eyes moist with emotion. He knelt before her, taking her wrinkled hands and kissing them with reverence. "Elder Anya," he whispered, his voice choked, "you saved us. Once again your wisdom guided us to the light." Anya smiled, a tired but serene smile. "It wasn't just me, my son," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It was us, the strength of our tribe, the unity of our hearts, the faith we held in each other. True vision resides not only in the eyes that see, but in the soul that feels, in the spirit that connects to the earth and to our kin." She felt the touch of the ice beneath her feet, the vibration of the rocks around, and knew they were safe. The sound of the bears, once so close, was now just a distant memory, swallowed by the refuge's protection. The other tribe members began to stir, lighting a small fire with dry kindling they had brought, the warmth and smoke filling the air. The injured calf's mother licked her little one affectionately, and Lyra, with the baby warmed, felt hope blossom in her chest. The reindeer calf, though still limping, was alive, and the baby slept peacefully, oblivious to the danger they had faced. Anya felt the fire's warmth on her face, the smell of smoke, and the presence of her family. She knew the journey was not yet over, that there would be new challenges, but in that moment, in that refuge of ice and rock, life had prevailed. Human connection, altruism, and resilience had proven stronger than the most intense cold, more powerful than the greatest of predators. Hope, like a small green sprout beneath the snow, had found a way to blossom. The Sarik tribe was safe, and Anya's wisdom had ensured that the flame of life would never freeze. The flickering flame of the fire danced in the center of the refuge, casting welcoming shadows on the rocky walls. The silence, previously heavy with the blizzard's howl, was now filled with the soft murmurs of the tribe, the crackle of firewood, and the rhythmic breathing of the sleeping. Lyra, with the baby nestled against her chest, watched the small reindeer calf, which now rested peacefully beside its mother, its injured leg carefully bandaged with strips of hide. The fever had subsided, and a breath of life, once so fragile, now seemed more robust. A tired but genuine smile lit up her face. That refuge was more than a shelter. It was a sanctuary of hope, a silent testament to the unbreakable strength of the Sarik spirit. Kyle sat near Anya, offering her a bowl of warm broth. Steam rose, warming the air and bringing a comforting aroma. The elder accepted with a nod, her wrinkled fingers feeling the bowl's warmth. "Thank you, my son," she said, her voice a whisper of gratitude. Kyle, his eyes fixed on her, felt an even greater admiration blossom in his chest. He had witnessed Anya's courage, her ancestral wisdom, and now understood that true leadership was not about physical strength, but about the depth of the soul and the connection to the invisible world. Anya sipped the broth slowly, each swallow bringing a comforting warmth. She could feel the presence of each tribe member, the collective energy that united them. Fear had dissipated, replaced by a profound calm, a certainty that together they could face any adversity. She felt Lyra's touch on her shoulder, a gesture of affection and respect. "Anya," Lyra said, her voice soft, "you taught us that vision goes beyond the eyes. Today I felt it. I felt the hope in your voice, the strength in your steps. I felt the connection." The elder turned her face to Lyra, a gentle smile on her lips. "Connection, Lyra, is the web that binds us. With the earth, with the animals, with each other. It is what makes us Sarik. It is what allows us to survive where others would perish." She paused, feeling the warmth of the fire and the presence of her tribe. This winter was a test, a reminder that nature is powerful, but also that our spirit is even stronger. The bears were diverted not by brute force, but by cunning and the respect we have for all creatures. In the days that followed, as the blizzard subsided and the extreme cold offered a reprieve, the Sarik tribe remained in the refuge. They cared for each other, shared stories, and planned for the future. The reindeer calf slowly recovered, and its mother licked it affectionately, a living symbol of renewal. The experience had left its marks, but it had also forged indestructible bonds. Kyle, with a new understanding of his role as a future leader, spent hours talking with Anya, absorbing every piece of her wisdom. Lyra, with the baby now stronger and smiling, felt more connected to her heritage, to the strength of the Sarik women. Anya, sitting at the entrance of the refuge, felt the gentler wind on her face, the scent of fresh snow and the promise of a new cycle. She knew that life in Yakutia was a constant dance between survival and celebration, between challenge and overcoming. But looking at her tribe, at the faces illuminated by the fire, at the reindeer grazing peacefully, she felt a profound peace. Hope, like the snow that melts to nourish the earth, would never freeze. Anya's vision, which transcended blindness, had ensured that the flame of Sarik life would continue to burn, bright and unwavering, in the freezing depths of Yakutia, a beacon of resilience and love. The village was saved, the calves protected, and the connection with the earth and with each other was stronger than ever. The days that followed the storm and the refuge were days of slow, deep, and lasting healing. The blizzard finally subsided, revealing a purified world of ice and snow and a path back home. The Sarik tribe undertook the return journey, their steps light despite the exhaustion. Each hut felt like a warm embrace, their fires exuding a sweet scent. The reindeer, safe in their enclosures, grazed peacefully, their calves running with energy. The injured calf, with a hesitant gait, showed recovery, a miracle celebrated with glances and smiles. The village breathed relief and reverence for life. Anya, seated in her place of honor near the central fire, became more than an elder. She was the personification of resilience. Her eyes radiated a wisdom felt by all. Children gathered around her, and she recounted the journey as a lesson in courage and unity. Her gestures were calm, wrinkled hands gesticulating, describing the wind's howl, the ice's tremor, the bear's scent, and the melody that diverted them. She emphasized that strength lay not in fighting against nature, but in understanding it in its deepest secrets. Her smile when speaking of the united tribe was one of pure satisfaction and pride. Lyra, with the baby growing strong, felt a profound transformation. The experience had shaped her, making her stronger, more intuitive. Hours spent beside Anya, she absorbed every word about herbs, weather signs, and the earth. Her eyes, once apprehensive, now shone with serene determination. Kale embraced his role as future leader. He was no longer just a hunter, but a guardian, a protector. He organized the tribe. His advice, once hesitant, was given with the confidence of one who had faced death and found life. Both Lyra and Kale were living proof of Anya's legacy, a seed of hope. The Sarik tribe emerged from the ordeal more united. New mutual respect and the understanding that life was a precious gift and community their greatest treasure. Meals were more joyful, songs vibrant. Elders shared stories, young people listened, understanding that the wisdom of the elders was the compass through life's storms. The village, once just huts, now pulsed as a single heart, warmed by the flame of solidarity and love. The sacred reindeer, a source of food and the spiritual heart of the community, were treated with reverence. Their survival was a reminder of interconnectedness. The calves, once a source of anguish, now ran free, symbols of a future. The tribe understood that nature, though relentless, offered refuge, and that harmony with it was essential. They observed the skies, read the wind, and listened to the ice with attention, seeking to understand the balance that governed their world. Hunting and gathering were done with gratitude, each resource valued, a gift from the earth that kept them alive. Anya, feeling the faint sun on her face, knew her mission was accomplished. She had guided her tribe through the darkness of the blizzard, through doubt and fear. Her physical blindness had been a portal to a deeper vision, one that saw the strength of the human spirit, the beauty of connection, and the promise of a future. She didn't need eyes to see Lyra's glow, Kyle's determination, the tribe's unity. Hope, which had promised never to freeze, now burned, an unquenchable flame in Yakutia. The story of Anya and the Sarik, told for generations, would bear witness that, even in the freezing depths, love, resilience, and ancestral wisdom would always find a way to the light.